walk us through, if you would, the typical process of a construction loan, right? From, you mentioned the lender will basically notify you and introduce you to the contractor and the project. So, and I do recognize there's a difference between, not all construction loans are made equal, right? That some of those construction loans are literally from dirt to a completed building, and sometimes you'll be brought in midway through it, right?
Right.
But for sake of just helping our audience understand what to expect going into a construction loan, if they decide, I do want to expand, I want to build a new building, I want to add on to my existing property or something like that, what is typically that process, and maybe the time frame would also be helpful.
Good, absolutely. So you mentioned ongoing, right? Ongoing construction. So that's something that's called broken priority. Right? So broken priorities used to be taboo. Title companies did not want to insure those loan requests. Lenders didn't want to lend on broken priorities. And broken priority is simply defined as a construction project that's already started before the loan is in place. Therefore, the deed of trust has not been recorded. So the lender does not have first priority on the deed of trust. So that's pretty much the goal of lenders, to have first priority to protect themselves against default, right? But when you use a funds control company, that broken priority becomes less of an issue. And because of our presence in that construction process, the title company is more willing to issue a date-down endorsement for that draw request, because each draw request that's made by the borrower is insured by a title company. Every one of them. They don't simply just insure the loan itself, they insure each draw for up to that date, which protects the lender in case of default, right? So that's where we're at. So broken priority comes to play when there's already construction started. I just want to make that clear. So if someone says to a small business owner, well, there's broken priorities, don't pack your bags and go to somewhere else, because that's not a problem anymore. We work through that always, right? And I'll typically meet with a title company to talk about those broken priorities and how we fix it. So a funds control company reduces the risk and allows the title company to be more comfortable insuring that particular draw request. So there's a contract that's involved between me, the lender, and the borrower. It's a three-way contract as a funds control manager. And it gives me the access to the property. It gives me the right to demand documentation, which is critically important. Once that happens and the contract has been authorized, the introductions are made to the owner and then to the general contractor. And it's okay sometimes for the owner to be his or her own contractor as well. It's not required on private residences, but when you get into commercial projects that involve other people walking through doorways and going under the buildings, then that becomes commercial, and the requirements are different, and you need a general contractor by law to do that, right? So what I do then, once I receive the documentation I need and the phone numbers, I'll call the general contractor and usually maybe go out to lunch with them and sit down with them and tell them, this is what I do. Don't be worried about me, because I'm going to make your life very simple. I don't know what it is sometimes with inspection companies or other companies that act as intermediaries between the lender and the borrower, but there seems to be this disconnect, and to where there's all these demands, and boy, you're asking for 100 linear feet of baseboard and I don't see that there, so we're cutting that out. So as a general contractor, I understand what those other general contractors want and how they do it, so I can see it. And there's really no way to get around the details. So you have to play the game. You have to play by the rules. If you don't play by the rules, guess what? You're not going to get the money. So there's a little comfort level involved with everybody. As long as the general contractor knows that up front, I think that everyone's in a good place. So I get the loan request from the contractor, and I have explained to them already what I need. And I've already sent to them my platform. So it's the end user platform that they're going to receive, has all the documents that they would ever need for a construction process. They simply enter the information in, and it fills out the documents for them, and they submit that every single draw request. And I'll take a look at it, and if I've got all the documentation, then I'll go to the site and inspect it. I'll inspect what they're looking at. So part of the process is identifying what's being requested, whether it's materials or labor, who's getting paid is really important. So the contractor will understand that he needs to submit a package with all the details. Who are the subcontractors? What are they being paid? And I'll have to evaluate their invoices. So it's very detailed. It's just an audit format is what I go through. It's consistent. It doesn't change for any project. It's still the same audit process. Once I determine that everything's legit, the work has been done, then I will then approve that application, submit a lender report, and submit it to the lender, who then in turn submits to the title company that particular draw request. Once that's been approved and the insurance policy's been issued, then the funds are then wired or mailed, however they want to handle it. So that's a process that we go through every single time. One of the questions I do get a lot from owners is, oh, you know what, Gary, we just submitted our draw request, you approved it, thank you very much. We forgot to add $50,000 worth of lumber materials. So there are things called special requests that I get that don't require inspections, that I will just simply verify with the supplier. And I'll call, let's say it's Alliance Lumber Company, I'll call them up, say, is this your estimate? Yes. Is this for this project? Yes, it is. Legit? Yes. We'll go ahead and advance the money for that, as long as we have an estimate. But then at the end, on the next draw application, I'll have to look at those receipts to make sure that they followed through on what they said they were going to do. So this is all about risk mitigation and a system of checks and balances. And like I said earlier, it's just really no way to get around it, because I've seen it all. I know what happens, and so it's a good process to go through. So that's kind of like what to expect. The beautiful thing about this whole thing is that it doesn't take 60 days or 30 days. Sometimes it does, and what happens is these contractors are busy, and they're working, and they're trying to get their subcontractors in line. And it's hard to find contractors in the first place, so if you're not paying them, they're not working. My commitment to the borrower and the contractor is within 10 days you're going to be paid. If it's out of my control and the title company, for whatever reason, we just experienced 2 years of COVID-related absences and other issues causing delays and material shortages, I get that part. So sometimes title companies or whoever is working with these processes may not have enough staff. That would really be the only delay. So I'm usually on the project within a week, approving this stuff. If everything goes well, they'll be funded within 10 days. They can pay their subs, instead of waiting all the time while they have multiple applications being submitted and they still haven't been paid for the first one yet. That's kind of like what the process is in a nutshell.
Right, excellent. And with regard to timing, like what is typically, you talked about timing as far as paying these draw requests. I guess is it just completely dependent on the project as far as what to expect from if a business owner says, I want to build a new warehouse for my business, what should I expect that will take in time?
Great. So that's really important, because part of your budget is also your time. So time is money too. So the longer your project takes to build, the more money it's going to cost you, because interest is building, materials are going up in price every day. It's amazing. I mean, 30% increases every year in lumber alone, if you can get it. When you're paying $80 for a sheet of plywood, that's a lot of money. So you have to be spot on. So the faster we can move, the better off you're going to be. So I aid in that, to getting everyone paid as fast as possible. So I would just say that if you're planning for 12 to 15 months to complete a project, that's a good timeline. I would say anything less than that would be ideal, but it's really hard to do that, especially for a custom home. The bigger projects tend to move a little bit quicker, because the subcontractors know that they're going to be paid and that they're moving quickly, right? They can get their work done. With homes, it doesn't really, or residential, it doesn't really work that way sometimes, because there's always these mitigating factors, owner changes and things like that get in the way of subcontractors doing their work. So I would say commercial projects really move the fastest, where residential do not. But a good rule of thumb is plan for 15 months. That would be a good timeline.